weird. This is the same thing that we saw on Weston Street at Westnedge and Forest, where there are two parcels that got combined at some point, and technically the front of that building was in the historic district and the rear was not included in the historic district, is what I understand.
So just to break that down.
And I just want to say it because Jamar did just bring it up, and I think that that's another
And I was not aware of that. I was not aware of that also.
The Burdick side is not in the historic district.
Well, the corner where the convenience store is not historic.
No.
But if you look at this rendering, then that means the black tower and then all the way down is not even in our purview.
No. The part that really steps down is what's in the historic.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could have led with that.
So do we make a motion?
Yeah, make a
to
motion,
approve?
please. Yeah.
All right, I'll move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the work as described in the application as it complies with Secretary of Interior Standards 9 and 10.
Discussion can happen after the motion goes on the table as well. So if there's commissioner discussion that wants to take place, please feel free.
Is there any discussion before we do a second?
And this is when, yes, the discussion happens.
Yeah.
So if I understand that we're giving historic district approval to a portion of a building?
So this is why it gets confusing to me, in my opinion. I don't think that it's a helpful exercise to say I don't have a clear answer for that, I guess, I think. I think that there would be some willingness then from the partners to say hey, I don't think that we're ever going to go through the process of making that other corner into a historic district, right? I do think that there is a building on there, and obviously they're coming to us in the first place, which says something about it too. If you really wanted to split hairs, I guess we could say, but I don't have the legal description up right now. And I mean this in earnest, not to be like a hard nose about it, but we're not going to say we're approving the meets and bounds that have been described in the application, that have been described, in the historic district back in the day. This was a mind boggler for me as well, and I wasn't thinking about it right now, but the way that works is that, again, even if those parcels got combined, the historic district would not extend into the entire thing. It stops where it stops. And it stopped at the properties that they came to for demolition.
For demolition.
2 months ago or whenever it was now.
So really, we have no say about what goes on Burdick.
Well, yeah, and the parts that are the most problematic
Are the ones on Burdick.
But I think too, and that's a two-pronged and two-approach thing, because while they did not take a radical, super different approach on those parts either, and I think, sorry that this all didn't come up sooner in the first place, but when we're looking at it, the first renderings that I saw of this building looked very different than these renderings. So when I opened up these renderings the last time, I noticed the brick immediately. There were then concerted efforts made by, it seems, the contractor, and I know that we talked about Secretary of the Interior Standards 9 and 10, to tie some of those things in. The question about whether or not we'll be able to regulate on the Burdick side in the future is something that I will cross that bridge when I get there, I guess, because I am not thinking about it right now necessarily. I think about the building probably as one unit, and I think that that's how it goes in my head, and it gets messier to me when we start to divide it up.
Well, but the way that we're deciding on this right now, the biggest part of this building, that's the biggest holdup to the whole commission, is not even in our district.
It's not even in the district,
So it's a moot point. I wish you would have left with that. That would have been, So with that discussion, does anyone want to make a second?
I'll second the motion.
Casey, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Christy?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
It's also simple, right? So I'll see you guys in site plan tomorrow as well. I do just, I want to make sure that we stay in very close contact for this project so I can understand if there are changes that are made. I want to get ahead of them early, so if we need to get back in front of the commission, we can get you back in a way that's timely, okay? So thanks for coming out and talking with us for a while on this beautiful evening, and I hope you have a nice rest of your night.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the dialogue. Thank you all very much.
Thanks so much. All right, moving on to 714 West South Street, and I'm so sorry that your schedules got bumped on that one.
Okay, I'm Reed Schultz, I'm the owner of the property. The addition is basically just a deck. And technically, the deck's not even attached to the house. It's separated by a little bit because I don't like attaching things to buildings. And the only real variance from normal is that the A surface will be either Trex or TimberTech or something, a lower maintenance, longer lasting solution than cedar or yucky pressure treated. You don't want to put your feet on pressure treated. And TimberTech or Trex and the other composites are much longer lasting.
Great. Thank you for that. Very beautiful house. I look at it almost every day. Does anyone have any comments or questions for him?
I do just want to say the reason that I brought this one to the commission was because of the use of Trex. We've had previous projects that you've used Trex, and I brought it here for complete impartiality in keeping with that. So,
Yep.
You did say that, Reed, but I just want to reiterate it to them. So.
Yep. There's the rear of the house. It's not visible from the streets.
Just to clarify, I think your application said this, but the structure would be built out of wood and only the decking would be the Trex, correct?
Correct.
Any comments or questions? If not, could I get a motion to approve, please?
I had a quick comment.
Okay.
I guess for me, of course, would love to see all wood, but it's in the rear of your home. It's not visible from the street. You're building a new structure. If this were like a front porch replacement you were trying to do, I would probably not support it, but I think it's in the rear of your home. You're building a new structure. Like you said, it's not even attached to the home. So I personally do not have a problem with the use of a Trex just for the decking purpose.
That's exactly where I'm at. I'll move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the work as described in the application as it complies with Secretary of Interior Standards 2, 5, 9, and 10.
I'll second that.
Casey, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Christie?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
You're all set, and I'll be in touch with you tomorrow, so I can get your segment of the building permit approved on that as well, and then I'll send out my letter. And thank you for your patience with us tonight. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 224, 214 East Michigan.
Hello. My name is Rob Nickel. We are looking at putting a kind of neighborhood bar restaurant in what was the Winston's space on East Michigan. And part of our plan involves removing and replacing the 3 windows that are on the back of the building on Bates Alley.
Is this a separate building from the front on West Michigan? Or is it the same? Because isn't the front High Dive?
It's directly next to that.
Oh, it's next to High Dive.
Yep.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
It's been largely vacant for the last 10 years probably.
I had a question about the door on the rear. Can you go to the next photo, Casey? I think it's, yeah. So your application mentioned keeping it, is it that door that's going to stay, or are you adding a door?
So we're adding a door. That door leads to 2 apartments upstairs, and we really need to keep that space separate. So we need to have our own access into the spot. for safety and probably the liquor control, as well as the safety of the tenants. So the window, of the 3 identical windows, the one on the left is what would turn into a door.
Would you make it any wider, or is it the same dimension?
It actually fits in that dimension.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
And all of our windows would be, so all of our windows would essentially stay the same height and width. The 2 windows would come down not quite as far as those windows.
But you'd maintain the openings?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the brick at the top would stay the same?
Yep, really, those 3 holes in the brick would stay the same, with the exception of the one going down like a foot to become a door.
I have a question about the windows, though. I thought your application said something about having a hinged window, and there would be like a countertop that goes to the middle of the window, because that, to me, that feels like that totally changes the visual. Can you speak more to that in detail, please?
Yes, so the idea is up and down that alley, there's the decks everywhere that the city built. And so we would intend to have a deck as well, and those windows would be kind of an open air. People can sit at them, which is why we would bring the bottom up to like a table height.
So it's not like a service window, it's more of just an pass-through?
The one on the right would potentially be a service window. But we have in there, I'm not sure what pictures I gave you, Luis, but there were 2 styles. One was the open, which would be preferable to us because of the look that we want to go for, as far as creating that vibe, that open air vibe. But the quotes that we got are actually just single hung. We also have quotes in there for just single hung standard windows that are only unique in the fact that they're frameless on the bottom, so they can come down onto a table surface and not have a...
Oh, so you'd have a table pass through, basically?
Yes.
Is that the idea? Oh, that's kind of interesting.
I guess that's what I'm having a hard time visualizing. And you says on this other page of your application that you would infill the brick?
Just up to the table height. Right now, those windows come down to about a foot off of the ground, so it would have to come up to a table height. So the new windows would not come down as far as those windows do.
And I just want to provide clarification for everyone. The westernmost window, which is the window that is farthest to the left in the pictures, would be the one that is turning into the door. Obviously, the threshold is going to have to go down for that one, so it's closer to the ground, right? So the bottom's going to go down. The other 2 windows to the right, which are the eastern windows, the tops of the windows are going to stay at the same height, but the bottoms of those windows need to come up a little bit. So the windows would in effect be shorter because they need to receive a table height. The other things that I think, Bates Alley is something that's a different discussion because that's still a lot of public land back there. But when we're looking at those windows, they are not original in any capacity at all. So they're vinyl windows right now. And if we looked at awning-style opening windows, the question that I started to ask myself is, when do you notice that those windows are different? Is it only when they're open? And I think if they're going to fit into these openings, it's probably the only time that you notice that they're different, when the windows are open.
Well, the windows are not original. The openings probably are.
I don't know.
You don't know. You don't know. Okay.
I don't think that we can say with any certainty. I couldn't. I looked through and I tried to find things, and I could not find what the original windows on this building looked like necessarily,
That's not the original back of the building.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's another
That was added
consideration to
on
make.
at some point,
Yes.
probably in the 40s or 50s, but, or perhaps when I don't know when they had that on.
When you look at the back lines of these buildings, this would be a great one to have Nelson here to talk through with us. But when you look at the back of those buildings, you can see that half of Bates Alley does not stick out as far as the other half. So I think this is the half that protrudes a lot farther than the eastern half. So, I mean, when I look at this, the lintels, the stools or the sills look really unblemished. Like I said in the report, I could not tell if they were original or not, but I suspect that those are not the original sills on those windows in any capacity. Like you're saying, it's not the original back of the building
It's
too.
very obvious when you're inside the
Yes.
building that there's an actual foundation that's like 15 or 20 feet from that
Yep.
spot.
So when you infill that, are you planning on doing it infill with brick, and then put the table on top of
To be
that?
honest, I don't have a detailed plan on that yet,
Okay.
so that is possible.
Okay. That's interesting, yeah, so not sure when it was added on, definitely not original.
I think knowing the context between the two of you, that wasn't even the original back wall, I think that helps. And I do appreciate hearing, of course, it's not original, but I do appreciate that you would intend to keep the little arch details of the bricks at the top. I think that really ties everything together and honors what is there. What are you, style, material, whatever, what are you thinking for the door? Can you just tell us a little more about that?
The door that was quoted is just kind of a standard commercial door, probably similar to the one on the right, and actually, or the left, I'm sorry. And actually, if we had a zoomed out picture, there's another entrance into the building for the tenants, like a fire escape, that is just a glass commercial door to the right of those 3 windows as well. So it would, I mean, the goal would be for us too, to have it at least tie in to what is there. Yeah, it's just to the other side of that red downspout on the right. Just a aluminum framed dark metal.
Yeah, and tube light, I think, is what you were speccing out, and for all these, it looked like, or aluminum or CRL. I can't remember what brand you were using, but they would be aluminum, like, I think, standard commercial windows and doors. It sounds like there's some fluidity that you could look for in that, too. I don't know if you're planning on doing, like, a single light, which is all glass back there, or, this one has, I can't tell, I guess, from the reflection, if there's a panel in the middle of that, and that might be what Christy was asking as well.
I guess I don't understand what you were just saying. Sorry.
No, so the doors that, usually when we talk about the glass and doors, like you could have like a full light, which is pretty much the glass takes up the entire front of the door,
Yes.
or you could have like a half light, which is approximately half, and obviously we're counting for some frame as well, but I think that's what Christy was probably asking.
Okay. So honestly, I mean, we have some flexibility with all these things.
Yep.
But I think that the quote was for full glass.
Okay.
So basically, roughly matching whatever else is going on in the back there, though,
Yep.
as far as the door installer could do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Question for the commission, do we have any strong opinions on how to fill in the bottom of those windows? I guess my gut would say go with the brick, but I'm just a little nervous to leave that kind of up in the air.
I mean, if you did it with brick, it might just look like those were, it wouldn't look like the windows had been changed necessarily, if you infilled with brick.
Yeah.
If you put something else like, I don't know, metal, or I don't know what else you would do there, it would look like, oh, you have changed the windows.
Yeah, I agree.
And we kind of want that. Yeah, so like when you're installing the window, so on the design, does the table literally pass through the whole thing like you would when you're installing it? You set it down so you could slide a drink from one side to the other? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's probably not any thicker than the wall is.
Okay.
But yes.
Yeah, okay.
Through.
What's that? It's a built-in
So it's not a table that people sit at.
It's not really a table, it's,
Okay, it's a
counter,
ledge.
maybe, a
It's like
counter.
Bar top.
yeah, it's more of a
top ledge.
countertop. Yeah,
Okay.
and- Yep.
So then, yeah. So the whole thing looks way different, but, okay, so, I guess we could approve it as is,
Brick.
and then
We want to see brick?
we would like to see brick.
We'd like
I
to see
think,
brick.
yeah, I think that'd be the most appropriate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because even though the windows themselves are not historic, I think the back of the building kind of has a historic feel to it with
does.
the brick archways over the top.
Yep.
And I think too, you're already shortening the windows and adding a door, like it's already getting, I don't want to say chaotic, I don't mean that like in an offensive way, but it's already getting a lot of rhythmic changes, so I think, yeah, if you could maybe just calm it with a uniform brick would be my...
And I bet when they were installing that brick, they're not going to go and pull the bricks on either side of it and blend it. It would probably pretty obviously look like something had been changed for future restoration needs.
And I do just want to say, the front of the building provides a lot of context. The front of this building, if I'm correct, and if I'm not, let me know, is painted. It's the one that's correctly cased.
Yes, it is.
So the front of the building is painted beige, so you don't see the brick at all anymore. I mean, the front of the building, you can tell that the hoods on those windows are they are true hoods. They are very pronounced. They are not the small arches that are put onto the back there. It's very clear that there are differences happening here. Another kind of thing that's very interesting to consider is the front of the building in the first story, you do not have human scale windows. You know, it's storefronts because that's what it is. So the context, I think, helps when we're considering the historic nature of this building. You can get a lot of cues that it's much different. If we went up to the back of the building, you would also be able to tell very quickly if it was a true masonry structure or if that was like real brick going on. If every single one of those bricks is laid the same way, it's not real. They just put a veneer on there. You'd be able to tell. You need to have different bricks to tie in all the courses together. Just more things to consider, I think, when we look at this and we consider the newness of the back and then what is being proposed. Does it change the character overall of the structure? I think that the addressing on these buildings always drives me nuts, in this block especially, because it gets to be really fluid between all those buildings too. So even when I'm looking at the two buildings next to each other, it looks like they were built separate. I mean, this building has two fronts on it, two main bays, but there's a split right down the middle of them, and it looks like, I don't know when they were built necessarily off the top of my head either. So I just wanted to point those things out to you guys.
So you're saying it's had a long journey, and the stuff in the back's not that old anyways?
In the grand scheme of things, it is my opinion that no, it is not that old. I mean, you can just tell from, and we can't zoom in, and I was just on the back. I'm on Google Earth right now. You can tell from the recessed nature of the windows on the fronts compared to the nature that these windows aren't necessarily proud of the wall, but they are not nearly as recessed as the ones on the front, which tells you that they're not meant to receive storms because there's no blind stops on the windows, right? So they are good imitations. From, street view, if you looked at it, it might read historic, but I think once you start to get up to arm view and then especially nose, distance away from them, you would notice like, oh, there's a lot of these minor cues that we see in historic buildings that we're not going to see on the back of it, which would then lead us to believe like, hey, it's probably not the old part. And then when you get really great clues like foundations, those ones help a lot too to look at, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Knowing all that, does anyone want to make a motion?
You want me to do all three? Okay. I realize now that I read this one for the last one, but just added an extra standard for the last people. All right, I'll make a motion to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the work as described in the application as it complies with the Secretary of Interior Standards 2, 5, 9, and 10.
I'll second it.
Casey, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Christie?
Yes.
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
So sweet. You're good to go on this part of it. I'll talk to you. I can send you an email to kind of follow up tomorrow. Maybe we can have a phone call tomorrow because they might want some more stuff for the building permit, and we can kind of discuss that to understand what you need to get that moving through as well. Thanks for coming in tonight and spending time with us. Sorry that you had to be the last one on a longer meeting.
Very interesting. All right.
I'm excited to go there.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Yep,
Yeah,
thanks.
thanks. Do you have a coordinator's report for us?
I do, but I accidentally closed it out, so bear with me for one moment, please. Just gonna take a second for me to get there. Okay. So the prices aren't right on this. That's for a couple reasons. I do want to address a couple things first because there's probably some, I know that there's some that stick out when I look at this, and I just wanted to make sure. So 426 Elm Street, it says that there's in-kind non-historic window replacement. They replaced it literally with the same window that they had before, which is a wooden non-historic window on the rear of the property. So to me, we've done that before, and it was, if you can show me it's the same one, I'm good to go on that. So that's why the approval was there. There's a bunch on Axtel. Those are all from building blocks of Kalamazoo for projects like that. So I think that this year was another really successful year of working with them, where they kind of gave me the entire stack of stuff that they wanted to go through. And we just sat down, got them all approved, because we know what projects we can do administratively that are super simple to do, and we did them and we got them taken care of. So those are all those. The numbers are going to be incorrect for the fees, and I'll admit to everyone out there, it's because my math got a little bit wonky, and then I'd already published it, and I was like, okay. We don't, Building Blocks did not get charged for those. I think we've had a long-standing relationship with them. I don't know where that comes from, but that's why some of the numbers are off a little bit. And just wanted to say that as well. The 530 West South Street one is something that I had a lot of back and forth with a lot of different folks. We already approved the face of that sign, and then it just got put onto a post in the yard, and I didn't think necessarily that putting a post in the yard was something that needed to come back to the commission because we already approved the face of the sign. So that's that one. And then 517 Elmwood is a very interesting one. Some basement windows that are wood that we do administratively approve, things like glass blocks. So if you wanted to take those out and change them, they are getting to the point where they're really beat up right now. So that was something that was fine to me. The entire building has aluminum siding in the first story, and the second story is stucco. And he was like, well, I kind of want to take off all the siding and put wood back up. And I was like, go for it. If that's what you want to do, go for it. So that's a great project to see as well. And I guess I just kind of wanted to highlight that one. So
Which one was that one?
517 Elmwood.
I think it is.
I think Elmwood Court, actually, to be honest, but yes. Neat house, tucked away, not one you'd see a lot, so. That's all that I have. I mean, it's a bunch of roofs, per usual, so.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you for that report, and before I adjourn this meeting, thank you so much for everyone, your thoughtful consideration for every one of these. It's so hard, especially when we're, as a commission, backed in the corner with only having quorum. That makes it extremely difficult to be able to follow, exactly your heart on everything. But yeah, thanks so much. And the time is 6:33, and the meeting is adjourned.